Or I would.
Okay, Mr. Hyde, will you please provide us the invocation today?
Father, we thank you for the good times and the difficult times. We pray for our county at this time and the loss of our sheriff. We pray for those of us at this meeting today that we will have good judgment and discernment. Guide and direct us and keep us in the center of your will. Amen.
Okay, recognition of the public, Mr. Kevin Baker.
Kevin Baker,
Oh,
4248.
I apologize, I skipped. Thank you. About to get you. Just a motion to approve the agenda. I'm gonna move a couple things to old business, but no addition. Oh, wait. All right, that's fine. Where would you want to put that?
B item C in my report.
What are you moving? We're gonna do under item C, under the finance director's report, or discussion of our debt policy. So without objection, I'd like to add that and then entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, Mr. Baker,
Aye.
apologies.
Kevin Baker, 424 AB Wade Road. Now, I might be putting the cart before the horse. We don't really know where this budget is going. I applaud the tax rate as I see it right now. I'm a little concerned with the way we fund the schools, and I've said this many, many times. You know, we're sitting on the brink of an economic crisis. The Dow Jones crashed by 2.6%. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money for a lot of people. Jobs reports is really down. The fact that we're basically earmarking X amount of sales tax revenue, I think it just puts us in a bad situation down the road. You know, I don't know how we get to giving them a set amount of money and sticking to that, but I just, you know, I think, I applaud you're taking slow steps. I'm a little concerned though, and when I see a superintendent of school put together a report saying how all, you know, the economic pressures applied to the school workers, well, what about the citizens? They're having the exact same thing, if not more so, and they're not getting the kind of rate increases, pay increases that some of them in the the public sector are getting. So let's just like to plant that seed with y'all. You know, try to think through this and put it off as long as you can, because I don't know where the economy is going.
Thank you, sir. Okay, got no more, unless there's anybody else who'd like to speak. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes, July 15th.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So here's my report here. I'm gonna, I note a couple items that are on the agenda, but I'm just gonna go ahead and, without objection, suggest that when we get to them, that we just go ahead and move into old business. The first one is the potential ARPA discussion of potential ARPA programs. Spoke with our finance director, and I don't know that there's any pressing need that we can't push that off to the next meeting.
Okay.
Same thing with, actually should have struck this one, but we'll move to old business and then probably you guys can strike it thereafter. That is item 7A. That's the field stripping machines. I understand that we can strike this per guidance from the education committee and the schools. In the schools. And then Brown Park discussion, we can move that to old business as well. We don't necessarily have to deal with that one today. I think we had a vote on that last time. We can deal with it. We had a vote on it from the floor. We can deal with an old business old business now. It's no longer pressing item. So those are the only kind of notes I have. I think this is going to be a fairly light agenda today, moving those items, and I've got nothing else. Mr. Long.
Under my report, are we get the old business first? Or the only thing under there's the city council, but there's no report on that.
That's fine.
Okay, the first one under my report is, if you look, there's the discussion of correcting basically a description on the sheriff's department. It's on page 92 and 3 of the agenda. And it would not affect the publication, so it's something we're requesting to correct now, but it's only a caption. It was actually for the interview room. It was actually named on the budget as, I believe, the gun range or something like that. It's on page 99 of the budget.
On this nine, oh, okay, I see. So what's it changing from and to?
Let me go over here and I've got it on page 99 marked. And it was just, I believe, mislabeled. It said other construction, sheriff's training center, and it's actually for the interview room.
Okay, so we would just change it to an interview room.
The
Okay,
captions, it wouldn't affect
that's
the
fine.
amounts
It's
at all.
just, that's fine. Any discussion on this one? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Page 94 through 96 is an email I sent to Miss Boyd. She had a question about the highway department's 5 years average. It's on page 94 through 96, the email is. Two things I've included, if you look on page 96, is actually the 5-year average, and what the county technical assistant uses is just out of the highway department, those 5-year averages. But as I pointed out in my email, the concern is if you read the two statutes, it just talks about appropriating and allotting local revenues, which the amounts, if you did put them in the capital projects fund, they would be funded by property tax, which is a concern. However, if you read the last paragraph, and specifically under one statute, it excludes bond proceeds and state revenues, but bond proceeds and note proceeds or other revenues, so the commission would have the option, and it would be something you'd want to verify through your legal, through the probably Department of Revenue. You could do the option of potentially, if you wanted to issue a 6-month capital outlay note, such as through a local bank and paying it back through debt service, and that would not affect the 5-year average of the highway. Is my understanding of the way it's written, but we would want to verify that with the Department of Revenue.
Entertain a motion for discussion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess I have a question on this one.
So to give background, Ms. Boyd posed the question because she was looking at the statute. She talked to Wesley, and Wesley's correct. The way they are doing the reporting for your 5-year averages takes only the local revenues in the highway. But if you read the statute, they reference, it just says local revenues, and it says, I believe, let's see the word, appropriate and allocates that $20 million or any amount in that local capital projects is from property taxes, which is clearly a local revenue. So my concern, even though they are calculating it that way, if you read that, and I've talked to legal some too, if you read that verbatim, it looks like they should be including that money in there too.
Let me, you and I have had this argument, I think, several times, and most of the time we agree, but we disagree on this one. And I want to outline my argument on this. So we're, assuming this passes, what we're doing is we're setting aside a pot of money. That pot of money is not immediately, there's no specific thing that it's appropriated for.
Right.
It's the highway director, the road superintendent is gonna have to go and, each time request $100,000 for this, $75,000 for that. So I mean, and that'll be burned in over a 3-year period. So I'm not sure that I feel like because of the way it's structured, the entire purpose of, if that was the case, if you reread it that way, any capital that we laid out for anybody, let's say we wanted to, Shane builds a capital project for a jail, then suddenly that would start to count toward.
His MOE is only, you cannot decrease his amounts or number from prior year. The MOE for the highway is based on 2 statutes. The first one is the 1985 increase that has that 5-year average on local revenues to be allocated and appropriated. And then number 2 is the one that was done, I believe, last year, which was for the large amount, the $300 million state sharing, which says you cannot supplant local revenues.
No, I understand.
So his is specific to the highway.
But here my logic on this. Let's state, so for the sheriff's department, it's the previous year, right?
No. The only thing the sheriff's department has is you cannot decrease his amounts or numbers below the prior fiscal year without his consent.
Correct.
So it would not affect capital.
Right, but I'm doing an apples to apples comparison. Let's say
But
hypothetically.
it's apples and oranges is what he's saying.
Well, but I'm not sure it is. Like, if you got 20, let's say instead of doing 20 million over for highway, I'm gonna set aside 20 million in a capital for the sheriff's department. If we applied that same logic, it would be even worse, because it would go from the year over year. I don't understand
They
why.
don't apply to them because it's not a salary or a officer. Their MOE is based on a statute that says you cannot decrease their amounts or numbers without the sheriff's consent. So the capital would not come into play for the sheriff.
So why does it come into play here?
Because right here under that statute right there that CTAS quotes, it says that if you're gonna get the 1985 gas tax increase, it says you only get, if, which is the local government, it appropriates and allocates funds for road purposes from local revenue sources in an amount not less than the average of 5 preceding fiscal years. So it's basically saying you've got to appropriate and allocate an amount to the 5-year average on their local revenues, or you do not get the increase from 1985 on the gas tax. So you'll lose that. It'll be used in the county by TDOT. It's a specific statute to the gas tax. That's what theirs comes. And then their second one's a supplant one that came about 2 years ago, and it's based on the state revenue for state aid roads and bridges, which is a new one. And it talks about supplanting, which
I still get that, but I'm still like and I've read these statutes and I know we've talked about this, but I still, if you put that, if we applied that same logic, then every capital outlay we ever did for the highway department, like if you ever did any capital outlay for the highway department, it would be applied to this.
not if you did it with bonds. And the thing is, bonds and notes are both considered other financing sources. It specifically mentions bonds, but notes are the same thing. They're other financing sources, they're not local revenue. So as I was pointing out to Ms. Boyd, even though I have concerns about this and she has concerns, you technically could come back with the state's approval, and you'd make sure that my understanding is correct. Issue short-term capital outlay notes for such as a period of 6 months, so there wouldn't be a lot of cost or interest. Pay it back through debt service, and it would not affect his 5-year average.
I mean, I see what you're doing. I mean, I see the
You're
idea.
basically getting but the other way, if you think about this logic, say that we didn't want to do a 5-year average for the highway department, the easiest way to do it would be take property tax and put it into another fund and give it to it. Then you've just completely bypassed any point of local
What fund?
capital, or the capital fund. Say you could take every bit of his asphalt out and put it over in the capital fund, and then you would never have to worry really about an MOE.
Really?
Well, I'm saying if that was true, but I'm concerned that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, I see. He's playing the counter argument to me that I'm playing to him. Like we've had this.
But my only
discussion
point
several
is,
times.
right now, and this is because I sent it to Ms. Boyd, and I think she forwarded it to everybody, that's why it's under my report. She had the specific question about the statute, because that's the statute quoted from County Technical Assistance, and all it says is local revenues allocated and appropriated, and what's funding that 20 million and the amount that's for equipment and highway is property tax.
So your solution then would be to plug back in some of that from capital into debt service and issue.
Your debt service still has a fairly good balance. So if you're gonna spread it over a couple of years and do it toward the end of the year, the easiest way to handle it would be leave the 20 million to handle your other capital, issue a capital outlay note through a local bank, which, there's actually forms to write the capital outlay notes, and we got legal to approve it, and you get state approval. So for instance, to make up an amount, you decided you wanted to split it over 3 years, it'd be $6 million. You do a $6 million capital outlay note, it'd be paid back by debt service, the $60 million.
In 1 year. We don't want to pay that back over. I mean, could you just do like a 1 year note?
It would be a 6-month notes. whatever.
Okay, 6 months.
I've done 6-month notes for school buses years ago.
Okay.
So I've written them, done them, got state approval, so it's the same mechanism.
Because the whole, I mean, everything that we're talking about here,
6
all
months.
of our projections are all about no more. So you're talking short year.
I'm talking about
short-term
6
bonds.
months, where we would take money out of your debt service versus your capital fund, and then reallocating the tax levy next year would just correct it all anyway.
Well, then, I mean, next year, we're gonna need to reallocate a bunch of that from capital back toward.
And think about this, if you did it in the second half of the year, 6-month capital outlay note, it'd be paid back at the beginning of the next fiscal year anyway, we can reallocate. So really, it weighs itself off, it just really removes.
So you're talking about doing that three
times.
roughly six $6 million bonds,
And-
short-term bonds.
Back when I was at Green years ago, we had there was a city school system, and you had a debt service fund that was completely on the outside property tax rate, so we did school buses every year for 6 months outside of the debt service.
If we do that, don't we have to republish this budget?
No, I'm talking about it'd be later in the year, you're just gonna issue a note.
Okay, I see.
It'd be
I see.
budgeting, but you don't wanna
And
republish
it's
it.
with a regular bank?
Yeah,
Okay.
you just go out and you get quotes from a bank, sealed quotes, and you'd follow all the procedures.
So just to recap on hearing, obviously what we've been discussing for the past 3 months is taking that $20 million, speeding up our highway and road paving, which has been deficient, and trying to just catch that infrastructure up, which is kind of the role of government. But obviously, the way it's been presented in budget and we moved it forward, you had problems with, and then based on the statutes, does this still achieve the same goal and doing it in this method that you're recommending, and do we need to make a motion to?
Two things I would say.
What we need to do right now?
This would accomplish them right now, because I sent the email and I thought it was sent out to everybody else, I'm just discussing it tonight. I would recommend making no changes since you already published your budget, send it to the floor. It's simply committed to highway. So leave it
Yeah,
in
but we could
there,
put it back
and
where we
then
want to.
later in
It's
the
not-
year, if you decide to do it, look at this really closely, and if you have the same concern, it would be easier to do the capital outlay notes, or if you disagree with my opinion, then go forward with the,
With the,
spin it out.
and then if Toby in 4 years comes back and says, hey, this is all maintenance of effort, then you get to say, you told us so.
Well, I don't want to say I told you.
Not
so.
if he
I'm
doesn't
saying I
buy it, right?
advised
That's all
you as
right.
best you could, that's all I can say.
But I mean, but if my question is that we're trying to avoid an increase in maintenance of effort and inadvertently causing a tax increase in 3 years. And so does this satisfy the requirement that you feel, even though CTAS disagrees with your opinion, but if you got two people disagreeing, all it takes is a lawsuit.
They're the ones that's doing the calculation, but if you look at it, the statute just says simply appropriating and allocating local revenues, that $20 million and everything else in that local capital fund came from property taxes.
So is doing these notes the way you're talking about, does that satisfy the requirement of where we would not be in danger of increasing the MOE? if
The
we're
way I'm
applying it?
looking at it, yes, but we want to verify that with the Department of Revenue. They don't.
So we still have time, obviously, because, I mean, we're not, part of the condition for that money was on the Highway Department coming over to the Financial Management Act and compliance there as well, so.
Right, the quickest way to do it would be number one is Department of Revenue verify the understanding with them to make sure that doesn't affect it, or that the other one does.
Do you need us to take a vote to ask you to do
No,
that? Or is you gonna
that could be something for next month. I
Okay.
mean, it's only discussed this month because I had an inquiry from a commissioner, sent the email, and I believe she forwarded it to everybody, so to make sure it's not muddy in the water.
I was still concerned when we were looking at the charts a couple weeks ago on, you're projecting out 27, 28 of us being in the red. I mean, and we removed some money out around at a highway. I wasn't exactly sure, wasn't following tracking at the time, I'm trying to look back on it and remember it. But I mean, it looks like we're going to be at a deficit. That's what we were showing in 27, 28. You're projecting that, which,
That was the initial, but it was changed. It shouldn't have a deficit.
Yeah, we shifted that.
I mean, I'm just making sure we did shift that. I mean, I just don't want, these budgets do scare me.
And those aren't actually technically budget schedules of your budget, they're just supplementary schedules or even disclaimed on. But they're on page.
But you had brought it up and flagged that in a meeting right up
Right.
here. And I remember Chairman Shove
If you look
trying to
on
move
page
money around from highway and capital.
C5, which is almost the last page. After the final adjustment, the highway shown basically zero fund balance in 26, 27. It was adjusted. And I think part of the feeling was by using 20 million of the others that it would basically allocate part of the cost. As I'm saying, the same thing can be accomplished with capital outlay notes, because this other financing sources is not local revenue.
I mean, I see where you're.
Well, I mean, there's no reason not to.
But the first step, I think, and the most logical would be CTAS is reporting, but get an inquiry to the Department of Revenue. and see how
Get a
they-
statement. Get a
Yeah,
statement
now if they
from
say
them.
we're not gonna count it because it's over in
Then
capital,
we've
if
got
it is local
Then
revenue,
we're fine.
then run forward.
That's, you know what,
If they say no, this should be counted, then you can do the
How can we
next.
do, can you do that?
Yeah, I'll just find out.
Can you request that?
Yeah, I'll find out who to talk to.
And will you send a note here, sorry, David,
Yeah.
will you just send a note, like kind of just make sure it's very specific to this committee for what we're gonna ask for them.
I'll just ask specifically about that circumstance.
Yeah.
$20 million worth of funds that
We're
were
setting aside-
initially from property taxes and the capital projects fund to give to the highway fund, would you consider that
To
effective?
affect their five-year
When-
moving average for maintenance of effort.
When it's allocated and appropriated, would it affect their 5-year
Correct,
average?
yeah.
And see what their response is.
I have to ask, because I never want to assume, this has never been tested in court that anybody knows of?
I'm aware of it.
Has anybody checked? We've got 96 counties.
95.
95 counties in the state. You would think maybe this would have come up once since
So
1985.
if you don't meet the 5-year average, if you read that statute, it says that you don't receive that increase, but it's used in your county, I think, by the Department of, I
Yeah,
believe.
well, $4 million addition to his MOE would be substantial.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the whole reason we were doing all of this
Yeah.
was to not do that.
Trigger
We
that,
saw,
But the cost on a 6-month capital outlay in a very short-term notes wouldn't be significant.
yeah, that's,
It would not affect the MOE, just get clear, and it would
I mean,
prevent a future problem
like-
after.
I get
that
that,
time
I get
they pop
I
up.
get what you're trying to do. I'm still interested in what they say, what they're gonna say.
They may say it's ineffective.
All right.
We may have flagged them when they make everybody start including it, I don't know.
It
hard
makes
to
me wonder
say.
how, if we do that, I'd like to look if other people have been doing this exact same thing.
That's an issue.
Okay, I don't know that we need to do anything else on this. Any others?
No, not on that. Item C is the debt policy, and I can go over it, or what we've done historically. I've got an attachment where I can read basically what's on there, and let you guys go over it on your own.
Go ahead.
What we've done in the past is they've actually sent a resolution to the county commission saying that it has been reviewed and it's sent to all the commissioners, and they review it, and then it's a requirement. The only reason we're asking, it's a requirement of 3-star. If we don't meet it, then it changes grant matches and other things. And the 3-star requirement is they want you to acknowledge that the debt management policy of Sumner County is on file with the Office of Comptroller, which it is, and been reviewed by members of the Sumner County Commission. We've got the 12th day of August. I'm sorry, it should be 26. Because you can't be on 26. The 26th day of August.
That's fine. Do you need to vote on this?
Yes, to send a resolution for
Okay,
it.
I entertain a motion to submit that resolution forward. Anybody want to make that?
Second.
All right. Motion, I'll have made the motion, that's fine. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, moving on to old business. I'm gonna remove the City of Gallatin. No, we did move the ARPA. Yeah, so, Mr. Mayor, do you have any update on that 900? Is there anything, entertain a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
I
All in
think
favor?
what,
Aye.
I think what they're waiting on is the Franklin Street project, see how we finish up that.
So they're waiting on us? What?
Finish up the Franklin.
Well, not quite. They haven't started their water project
Who's
yet.
they?
The city, they have to do a water project in there before we can do the storm drain. But I don't know what's holding up our bidding out of the storm drain, though, Mr. Mayor, can you address that?
We're still waiting on Kimberly Horn to get their report back to us. So
It's
as
been
soon as
like
they
2
get the
months.
report back to us,
Okay.
So,
what has?
is there anything we need to do?
We can't do anything, and, I mean, what we can do is be proactive and bid out the storm drain. But the storm drain can't go in until the city puts in their water line, they're replacing the water line. And that was supposed to start May 1st, and it's delayed. And it's delayed because of some complications underground in that road.
All right.
And I don't know exactly what that's
but
about.
again, they're not gonna pay until we finish up the Franklin Street project.
What?
So that's where we are.
It's in
Right.
next year's budget, but if they're intending to pay, then it's really a big point.
But that's why I asked the question. So if the ball's in our court, what do we need to do to?
Well, we're working on it, but we have to work in tandem with the city to finish up that project.
All right.
And the city has to do their part first, and then we'll come and do our part.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I'd like to address the mayor. How did we get certificate of occupancy in that parking structure without that storm drain hooked up?
They granted it to us.
That's a federal law. that requires that drainage and filtration.
I have to ask the city that question.
Okay. Any activity, any action we need to take on this?
That was what I was gonna ask.
Go ahead.
Where's it going?
I mean, we'll just keep it on old business just to check on it, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, at least, I mean, it's a large amount of money. Okay, we bumped the ARPA program, Sheriff's Office Smart Book. Mr. Long, you have this one, I think.
The smart book, that's part of ARPA too. It's moved, you just.
Oh, we moved both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, sorry about that. So we don't, yeah, that's right, we put both of those together. Okay, new business, all right. I'd entertain a motion to discuss recommended 2024-25 tax rate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Long, what's our, what is the state turning back as a revenue? Would you tell us what the revenue neutral tax rate is and then explain, because I know everybody here knows what it means, but there are a lot of questions during the reappraisal. So I just, if it would be helpful, I think, just to kind of explain to folks one more time, what the state does, what a revenue neutral tax rate means, and then we'll have our discussion on what we're gonna do.
The $42.10 was the amount came back certified from the state and from the assessor's
So
office.
to be clear,
It brings in a revenue neutral rate.
Right.
What that means is the county gains no revenue, and it's supposed to be revenue neutral, we usually lose revenue because of appeals, but I can't help that, but, it's a revenue neutral rate. The only thing the county gets to keep is true growth like any other year from new construction.
so the previous rate was $225. Right. $225 on every $100 of assessed value. Now, what the state does is say, because of the previous way the homes were evaluated, those home valuations have gone up, and so we are going to make a calculation based on the total amount of value, property value in the state of, or in the county, in Sumner County, and say we're gonna divide that back by the total revenue that you previously had, and that's your new rate. I mean, there's more that goes into than that, but the bottom line is that the county is not getting any more dollars. It's a dollar for dollar change, and in fact, because of appeals, some of those dollars are gonna fall away. It's a small amount, about 1%. One half to 1%, right, Mr. Mayor? I think that's about on average.
It varies, but that'll be over years,
Right.
based on the appeal process.
And on page 12, 13, and 14, it has some additional data on the property tax. The division came about based on the votes made for the reallocations and for the additional 7.5 for the schools. And if you look on page 14, it actually shows up all your local revenue and shows how many dollars are estimated to go to each fund. When everybody gets there, it is on page 14 is the very first set of numbers. It says local taxes and current property taxes, and that's the estimated amount. These were budgeted before the reappraisal, so the reappraisal bring in slightly more than budget here, so we were conservative to make sure we didn't have to come back and rework the budgets. We're expecting to bring in a little more even with appeals. And the allocations are based on the additional 7.5 to the schools and the amounts in your budget.
So I would entertain a motion to accept the 142.
So move.
Revenue neutral tax rate. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I be clear of one thing, to make sure we do understand? The commission on the floor cannot raise this above 142.10 because you actually have to publish
The intent
if
to
you're
raise
going to
taxes.
intend to sort of raise the certified rate. And based on the budget committee's understanding, there's no intent to raise the certified rate, so there's been no publications or anything else done.
Correct.
So you can't go on the floor without a publication and raise the rate.
Correct.
Let's make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay. I think we can handle B, C, and I think the one that we're gonna have, some discussion on is item D. I think I would, unless anybody would object to this, I would entertain a motion to group and approve item B, C, and E.
On item B, can I make one comment?
Well, there hadn't been anything. People may not want to do that. That's okay. I just was looking at them and thinking we could move them quick.
C may be the question, maybe. On C.
Or we can handle them initially. We can handle them individually. It's fine.
Yes.
Most of these you pretty much have to do by law.
Well, B's the one you published, and that's what.
I'll make a motion to discuss B, so you can.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead. Mr.
But
Vaughn.
But C's the actual one you need to discuss, but B is the actual one that you guys approved that's been published, so that is the one you need to foresee. What I've got on there is two things.
Well, let's dispose.
So
of
move
B.
to approve.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, B is good. Motion to discuss item C.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, go ahead.
C's
Mr.
got the budget that you approved as a committee, and it also has the budget that the school sent directly to the county commission. What your private act says, you'll send a budget, an appropriation resolution, and a tax levy. To make sure we're following that, what I'd recommend is you just vote to move it forward to the commission floor, and it'll agree with what they directly proposed. That way you don't have to vote for
So moved.
appropriation resolution and
Motion.
necessarily agree.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now we move to item D. So this is the contract between Sumner County BOE and Sumner County Commission.
Motion to discuss.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Who wants it queued? Go ahead, Mr. Mansfield.
I'm gonna make a, I just look, especially looking at what's happening in the markets today in the economy. I'm gonna make a motion to defer this to September, to see where our capital, nets out, from the floor, on the 12th. And, to see where we're at as a county, for what's happening right now. I'm very concerned, so my motion is to defer this till September's budget meeting.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this? I'm gonna make one note. If we defer it, I mean, at least in my understanding, it will make it difficult for the schools to continue with their current capital projects, or with their proposed capital projects, so, because of the timeline. Go ahead.
Well, I've got a real problem with that capital project. The last meeting, when we were in the main chambers, I asked Mr. Langford to provide a detailed list of what he had proposed last year and what he's proposing now, and we have not seen that. He promised he would send it. So I still feel like I'm working in the dark, and to increase and drop out major issues like the track, I just have a real problem. So I will be in favor of the deferral, just because I simply don't have enough information to make an intelligent choice on
Mr. Brown?
Plus, I mean, none of this is supposed to be built out until after the football season's over. They can retain their bids and everything with what they've got. This is extra on top of that, but I don't see why this should reflect anything upon
Ms. Mansfield?
I would just say, I disagree with, I guess, that assessment that it's gonna stop any capital projects, because they've got the money for it in their budget, and they restrict it from the reserves, and they only spend 99.1%. So even if we pulled back out of their capital, their reserves, I mean, they'll have that money there. So I've spoken with school board members that feel confident in that, so it's just my
Any other
opinion.
discussion?
Look, I'm gonna be honest, it's, you and the school board have worked together to figure this out. There's already been $2.1 million cut from their budget. I'm just afraid, costs are gonna go up if you punt this. And I just don't.
Go ahead.
it. I would make the opposite argument. If we're going into a failing economy, the prices will go down, because they always do. So we could actually do better by waiting a month or two.
Any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. So the last one is approved nonprofit organizations to resolution move forward to the county commission. I entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So, item B, or what was B? We called A, so, yeah,
The first one's
B1, entertain. a
So
motion
move to
discuss.
discuss item
Second.
B1.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Mr. Juan.
I don't want this the direct grant access from the health department. They didn't get the amounts early enough to get them in the budget. They're completely flow through. What I would recommend is approving it on the 26th after you get your budget done, because it's already been published, to make it as clean. That's why this heading here under item 7 has August 26th, because you've got 2 meetings this month.
All right,
So I mean, the revenue and expenditures by the same amount.
that's fine. Any discussion on this?
Just a quick question. Under new business, you got everything for the 26th, I guess. So you're saying we're not going to deal with this on the 26th?
I say deal with that one on the 26th, yes, as an amendment to the budget after it's adopted.
Right, that's what my assumption is, because they all say after the 26th, the entire new business, so.
Right.
Do we move to approve, or you need a motion?
I think we need a motion to approve.
All right.
Before,
Go ahead.
Motion to discuss.
Oh, we
You
already
already
did
did that.
Go ahead.
I don't thoroughly understand what's going on here at the health department.
The health department has the direct grant access. Remember back when you did their budget, you did like, I think, raises for the local, but you didn't do any raises for their employees. The direct grant access has always been 100% funded by the state. About a couple months back, the health department director came to you and said, do you want to go with the state raises, which they're going to 100% fund, or do you want to go with the counties, which might not be 100% funded? You voted to go with the state raises because you're going to fund them 100%. So what happened was, when you did your budget, the state was not finished with the contract, so you did your budget, and now this is coming back for their raises and amount as approved by the state. So basically what this resolution would do is it increase the revenue from the state by the same amount as appropriations, so it's a flow.
So I've forgotten, how much of their wage do we pay?
None.
None,
This
none
is,
at all?
The DGA is the direct grant access. You paid none of it. It's 100% state
Okay,
funded.
okay,
So it's a flow through, and they just weren't ready at the time the budget was passed.
okay.
Motion to approve. Anybody?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, EMA 2450 from general for the boat operator training course.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 2020 Sheriff's Office 22,311 carryover funds for data works equipment purchase. Second, any discussion? Go ahead.
What specifically was this for?
It's attached on page 152. They were actually in the process of getting bids and POs, and the year closed. We actually estimate it being expended, so there will be funds available to pay for it.
Yeah, I just didn't see anything that was descriptive enough to tell me what it was.
See if I can still do
It says-
it. Well, it says data works.
It says DP equipment. I'm assuming this is server,
That's what it
service
is.
support type data processing equipment. Do we have anybody from? Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm just,
Have we,
It's carryover funds.
haven't we talked about this before?
I don't know.
It was approved in the prior year's budget, and it just
Yeah.
didn't get completed.
Yeah, I think.
But we think it's computer
I
equipment and stuff?
think that's what it is.
It's computer equipment or
Okay,
software.
all right.
Hearing system. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so this one, we discussed, on the floor, up to $50,000 from the general fund, unassigned balance, for Millersville.
So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll pull the invoice as requested.
Okay,
Get back to
who wants to get in
the
queue?
I'll get in queue.
Okay, that's fine.
I've spent a little bit of time on this, and I'm still not sure how the county feels about spending money on a building that's not theirs. But I did speak with one of the things we needed to do was get rid of the generator. And on the other side of the wall from where the living quarters are, there's a 50 amp circuit that serves as stove. I've got an electrician that'll do it for less than $400, just put a plug. The sleeping quarters is a 30 amp circuit, the stove is a 50 amp circuit. So we could do that very quickly. And then I did talk to an architect who has worked on that building for a proposed expansion, two-story expansion to it. And I think his price is a little bit high, but he gave me a well, he didn't give me a proposal, he gave me a price to redesign to make those living quarters legal, and it was for $14,700. So I would think the $50,000 would more than take care of I don't even know if the work's gonna cost as much as his architectural fee, frankly, but, the real question here is, and I do have, something that Commissioner Mansfield sent me, if I can find it. It was an authorization by Millersville to allow us to do modifications to that building. So I'll defer to him.
Well, technically, I asked them, per Chairman Hyde's request last week, got in touch with their city manager and asked if they could come, can we basically have a good faith permission to explore the opportunities, because everybody keeps talking about permission, but yes, we have permission. But they did bring back an MOU that I didn't get to this afternoon, that I forwarded to you and the law director's office, that I know the law director, I think, had a couple questions about. So, but it's basically saying, yes, you can, but it was more of a signed agreement between the county mayor, EMS director, and the mayor of Millersville, I believe the city manager. But I just got that this afternoon. I haven't read over the terms of it, but it's basically saying yes, but it's like more of it wasn't a letter saying, hey, go ahead and, we don't have a problem, we'll come in an MOU afterwards. It's kind of like, did it all up front. But yes, they're totally fine with us modifying that building however we need for whatever purposes if we're paying for it. So, and if you're saying it's not going to be more than $25,000, my question is how much is the camper rental per month? Is that like $2,000 or $3,000?
What I was gonna go through, what you did this past one, you approved as part of your continuing appropriations to continue the project, basically to fund it and to continue on. But you cannot amend a budget that don't exist, so you'll need to do a budget amendment to back that up. The cost of the camper, and it says the lease ended on 8/9, so I'm assuming it'll probably be renewed something pretty close to the same price. It's $27.75 a month, and then there's a cleaning fee, but I think that's probably only at the end, I would assume. So it's about $27.75 a month for how many ever months it can be out there. I have no idea.
Now, how much is the generator? Are we still using the generator?
I'll see the cost on here for it.
Yeah, that's our generator.
Oh, it's our generator. Okay.
We're just talking the rental cost.
Put gas.
So there are two things going on here, though. So the $50,000, so assume for a second that, that we wanted to make a change to that building, we needed a local agreement, or some sort of agreement. That, we still need to rent a camper until that was complete. So I
Right.
feel like, I'm fine with that idea. I think it's figure out a long-term solution, that's great. But I think we still need to dispose of this one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, what I think makes sense to do is to dispose of this and just add the general operations, your agenda to come up with a plan to execute.
And is it understood that the 50,000 could be used for, no, it's not?
No, the 50,000 would be just for the RV, and once we stop the RV, whatever's left just goes back in general fund.
Okay.
But construction, we'll need to set that up
It's a separate thing. That's why I want to dispose of them.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just the rental of the RV day.
Yeah, I
And
didn't
any
realize
associated
that.
cost with running the RV.
Any other discussion on this one?
So move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to send this to general ops, or is it on your agenda,
He
Dave?
can just-
It's on your-
I'll just add it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add it.
So,
Item 5 was a general ops issue that was on their minutes that talked about the cameras for the archives. We don't have an estimate or anything, do we need to send it out to bid?
Yeah, I've got answers on that.
motion to discuss.
Motion.
So moved, second.
Aye.
Aye. That was all that. Let's try that again. Motion to discuss.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I went over there today, and they have 5 cameras, and they're all dead, and they're all antiquated. However, what our IT department, they're a great outfit. What they've done is they work with, I believe the name is Corson. Corson has some used cameras that they are going to give us and install for free. And we did the wiring, IT did the wiring. That, according to Robert Tuttle, that is being scheduled currently. And as soon as Corson can come over, put in the cameras, which they will do for free, we'll have a new camera system. So that was a pretty good deal.
So we don't need it on the agenda.
We don't need anything, we can kill
So
it.
nothing to move.
Okay, and that's fine. Well, we need to do the tax refund.
So move to group and approve items 1 through
Second,
13.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Can I
opposed?
mention one thing before
Go
we
ahead,
adjourn?
Go ahead.
This is something on your budget, and I put a note on here, I wanted to make sure, I meant to go over it during your budget.
What page?
It's on page number 8. It's very specific, and I can tell you why. Usually in our general fund, we do not have a lot of grants or encumbrances, and we have estimated fund balances. Right now, we have a large amount of encumbrances and a large dollar of grants, so the tune of, between the encumbrances and the grants, probably $6, $7, $8 million. So your estimated beginning fund balance may be $6, $7, $8 million for the beginning of this fiscal year, less than projected, but what that means is the revenues are under projected too, so by the end of '25, and some of them could carry over slightly into '26, you will have the same amount that we're projecting by the end of '25, but it may affect your beginning fund balance and your estimated revenues.
So $6 to $8 million encumbered for grants or grant
Well, it's
matching?
encumbered and deferred revenues. With grants, if you have an expenditure, we can recognize the revenue for up to 60 days or 60 days. Right now, we're approaching 30 days in several of these grants, we haven't got our money in yet. So if they're over 60 days, they'll go into next year's revenues, which means your beginning fund balance will be lower, but your revenues will be more. The other things, encumbrances, we can't claim, they're promises to pay, basically POs. We show those as budgetary expenditures, we can't claim those. But we did offset the revenue in your budget because of the grants to make them match. So what that means is your beginning fund balance for your general fund may be overstated, but your revenue's understated for the coming
Yeah,
fiscal
they're
year.
gonna balance out.
It'll balance over time, but I want to tell you, if you see a big difference between it and the financials, we'll probably want to adjust them, but I didn't want you to think there's something
That
weird or a
makes
real
sense.
problem.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That was the fastest budget meeting we've ever had.